Next up on the Cosmic News Network, First Contact with Joshua Put.
Good morning, Earthlings. How you doing today? Welcome to First Contact Radio. All right, today is the 24th of the month, 24th of March 2016. Our moon sign is in Libra. Our sun sign is in Aries. So we have a fire sign for our conscious mind. Fire sign is ideas. We have an air sign for the unconscious mind. The unconscious mind are those unconscious desires, things beneath the surface. Air is all about the words and the actions that we express. And those words and actions that we express are ultimately started off as an idea, and we then express them in some sort of way. Ultimately, the idea is to balance things out. If we look at the cards, Emperor, Aries, he who sets in order, all about understanding that things get created and somebody needs to oversee that, and that's what the Emperor is, the overseer, who sees, makes sure things are moving along in proper sequence in order so they can be more effective. And then, of course, Libra, balance. Want to have things balanced in our world. We use our words in order to communicate this balance and to express this balance into the world. So we say the things that are going to help us. We also learn to avoid saying or doing the things that will hurt us. Some of the aspects that we have today, 9:33 a.m., we have an aspect that is a sextile with the moon being in Libra. We have Saturn. Saturn brings discipline. So we're going to focus. We're going to focus ourselves a bit on what it is we're saying and doing, how we maintain this balance. So we're going to find a new set of focus later this morning. 11:26 a.m. we have a square, which is a lesson, some sort of a lesson of a deep transformative nature. 11:26 a.m. and then 3:55 p.m. opposition with Uranus, unexpected changes, surprises, things of this nature. And then the moon goes void, of course, at 3:55 p.m., where it will remain void, of course, until tomorrow afternoon, right here, when it goes into Scorpio. And then later today at 5:45 p.m., Mercury, the messenger, is going to be in a nice, good, positive trine here with Mars, that energetic force. So our communication might be a bit charged as we get later on to the day. And after having an opportunity to discipline, to experience the lesson of transformation, to deal with anything unexpected, all in the idea of balance and karma, we finally come to that place where we've experienced a lot, and then our communication will certainly be affected by that as we get into this evening. Okay. And we got our grid, so if you can see the opposition here. There's the Uranus, there's the Jupiter. Okay. Everything's lining up just the way it's supposed to be. The moon sign, yesterday was a full moon. Not just a full moon, but a full moon lunar eclipse. Today, the moon is now making its way back down to a new moon. It will be there on April 7th. April 7th. Right now, we're 98.8% of the way back down to the new moon. So it's quite a distance to go. Quite a distance to go. On the Jewish calendar, today is 14 Adar 2. 14 Adar 2. The daily thought for today is, as soon as we get over there, jumped away one extra page. Mayan oracles, a 4-tone day, 4 eagle, guided by the monkey. Phrase for today is, I define in order to create measuring mind. I seal the output of vision with the self-existing tone of form. I'm guided by the power of magic. Okay, if we take a further look here, let's see if we can get over to the daily thought for today. Some days it just is smooth, some days it ain't so smooth. It's just how it goes. You gotta roll with the punches, right? Okay, I'm just gonna move on here. So we've got the Mayan Oracle. We're in the wave spell still of the human, free will. Okay, spaceweather.com. Our solar wind is currently at 447.9 kilometers per second. Planetary K index at the moment is, it's nothing. We're in the in-between phase. We're almost there. Almost there. There we go. 2. Planetary K index is at a 2 at the moment. Next 24 to 48 hours up to a 3, so not really much of a change. However, look at this big old coronal hole that's opened up on top of the sun. A nice good sized one on the bottom as well. So definitely going to be feeling the effects of that wind hitting the planet. Wind hitting the planet. M-class layer possibilities at 1%, just like X-class. Geomagnetic storm activity seems to be pretty steady. Mid-latitudes hangs around 10%, upper latitudes around 20%. Stays that way in both areas over the next 24 to 48 hours. So things are subsiding a bit. Remember, it's just a breathing in and out. In and out is what goes on. Earth is breathing. Up in the sky tonight, the moon 2 days past full rises in the east-southeast around the end of twilight and climbs through the rest of the evening. Spot Spica about 4 degrees to its lower right for North America, and brighter Arcturus almost 30 degrees to the moon's upper left. Okay, that's what you have looking in the sky tonight, and then if we can get to it over here, a daily thought, but it doesn't seem to want to connect us in, so apparently we have no specific daily thought for today. Here's a daily thought. Just be good. Treat each other nice. How about that? Looks like it's trying. Looks like it's trying. Anyway, that's it for our opening segment, Cosmic Weather. UFO News is up next.
This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
All right, Dirk. Thank you very much. Today, 5 stories. Story number 1. This is from Las Vegas. UFO checks out UFO researcher. This comes to us from a couple of days ago on the 19th. There's our object in question right there. It seems like it's just over the house line. We could see through a filter. There is something there. This UFO. Okay. This UFO was caught by Stephen Barone of YouTube. He's a YouTube UFO hunter who lives and hunts in the skies around Las Vegas, Nevada. This orb is moving silently over the rooftops of his neighborhood. It's not a helicopter or plane because there is no other structure to it, only a glowing ball of light. He usually records these orbs around the mountain, but this one came extremely close. These alien orbs can sense that you see them, but this one seems curious about Stephen himself. He's probably wondering what makes him smarter than others in his neighborhood that ignore the UFOs. Okay. So what Stephen says is, what an awesome sight this was to see. I saw a light in the sky just above the closest mountain to my home, which is at least 2 miles away, and then began to film it because I could tell it was a UFO immediately. This is also the same mountain that shows up many times in my videos of UFOs, just above a rooftop of a building near my home. This time, I saw where the UFO came from and caught it in the air just before it began to descend and eventually land. As it was descending, the light went out, but in the moonlight was strong enough to where I could still see it in the camera lens. It lurked in the darkness at the base of the mountain and eventually showed itself again briefly. Several minutes later, it showed up just above the rooftop of a building you see in many of my videos. As it was leaving, I noticed that it was in fact two objects. Now I saw it for a second or two more back in the same spot it landed in, and then it disappeared. Amazing. Amazing. All right, let's move from Las Vegas. Let's go over here to tiny island of Mauritius. We have UFO hovering. Here's our object in question. You could see it, and then a bit more of an enhanced version right here. It says, strangely, this is at the most secluded place on Earth, far out in the ocean on a tiny island of Mauritius, east of the island of Madagascar. A UFO coming out of the ocean here has to be coming from an underwater base. There's been a lot of mysterious discoveries around South Africa in the last few months. Very odd that this area is usually cold for UFO activities. Hasn't been this hot since 4 years ago. With the UFOs here, fragments of the MH370 found here this week in Google Earth. Wreck off Cape Cod of Good Hope. Something's happening here. Okay. Very interesting indeed. Something's happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear. This eyewitness says March 13th at 8:55. Sunset, my wife and I were in the balcony of our house in Mauritius, a volcanic island near the Indian Ocean. My wife said, I think that there is something strange in the sky over the sea. I took my phone to film a strange object that seems to be hidden in the clouds. Okay. Interesting over at Mauritius. Packers quarterback shares his close encounter of the first kind. Okay, Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers. Let's see what he has to say here. Aaron Rodgers was the first round pick in 2005, but he has another first, a weird one. The Packers quarterback had a mysterious incident known as the close encounter of the first kind. Rodgers called the strange event recently on YouTube on the You Made It Weird podcast with comedian Pete Holmes. The UFO sighting apparently took place February 2005, the night before the football player was to make an appearance on Cold Pizza, now First Take of ESPN. The former Cal quarterback went to the East Coast for the interview and stayed with the family of a former Cal teammate, Steve Levy, while he was there. Rodgers, together with Steve and family, were winding down at dinner. All of a sudden, they heard a strange siren in the distance, so they went outside to check that out. Rodgers described that night as snowy and bright. The next thing that happened was the appearance of a strange object in the sky. The Packers quarterback was fully convinced he had spotted a UFO. He went on to describe the object. According to him, it was a large orange, left-to-right moving UFO. While it is hard to make out because of the overcast nature of the night, the snow, and it was behind the clouds when they saw it. Rodgers was nearly sure it was large in the evening sky, moving from left to right. The encounter apparently took place around 12:30 a.m., and Rodgers, Steve, and his brother witnessed it, a total of 3 witnesses. Rodgers said the object remained in their sights for about 30 seconds, but it was like 5 minutes to them. They all got shocked, said Rodgers. The group then apparently heard about 4 fighter jets flying above them. They knew they were fighter jets because of the sound. It's been 11 years since it happened, but Rodgers clearly remembered they heard an alarm from about 30 miles away and later realized it was from a nuclear power plant that had its alarm go off. Okay. So the Packers quarterback did not want to share his story at first, probably afraid to be ridiculed, but after he had started to tell it, it was like a moment he clearly remembered, even though it had been more than a decade since it's transpired. All right, very good. Nice, good encounter there with Aaron Rodgers. Here we have a story that is from Sumter, South Carolina. Sumter, South Carolina. Must-see triangle UFO. Okay, let's see what this is all about here. Check out this amazing video of a possible TR 3B craft flying across the sky of Sumter, the county seat of Sumter, South Carolina, filmed March 23, 2016. There's our object in question. You can see it's triangular in shape. Witness says, I was out in my backyard with a fire due to the nice weather, looking at the stars and satellites. Noticed a triangle-shaped object, no sound, white constant lights in corners, and red strobe in the center that pulsed. Tried to figure out what type of aircraft, but no sound and no wings, just dark triangle shape that creeped along. Went and got wife to look so that I wouldn't be the only one to see it. It looked to be about 3,000 feet in altitude and traveled 210 course, then 40 minutes later came back to reverse at 0:30. I was ready for the return and got footage with the phone and night vision I use for hunting coyotes. I live next to an Air Force base and I'm used to seeing aircraft, but this was different, and I hope others saw it tonight. Okay, very interesting. There's the link available, so you can check it out for further study. And finally, one last piece, one last UFO story that is for today. And this story has to do with NASA and a mysterious object. It says mysterious UFO formation orbiting Earth. Alien hunters are demanding an explanation from NASA over the formation of UFOs seen in the image posted by the space agency. Okay, so we have a series of these little ships here, or little round orbs, if we can get to them. Well, it seems that it's being stubborn and doesn't want us to see the series of orbs. What we have is a series of orbs right here that were spotted above the sky, or above the sky, in the sky, above the people watching them. Alright, doesn't look like it's going to let me get to this page. Whatever, seems to be stuck, but that's okay. That's okay. The link's available so you can check it out. So do not worry. You'll be able to find the story. Anyway, that's it. That's our UFO news today. Just continued proof that we are being visited on a regular basis for whatever reason that may be. And there you have it. All right, I will be back. We'll continue on. Stay tuned.
Come into our circle, Great Spirit. Fill our souls with peace.
Great Spirit, send down your love, send
continue on. Here's a story that's going to be quite bizarre for you to hear this. Remember the shooting of Gabrielle Giffords by Jared Loughner? Well, check this out. Court documents. Jared Loughner sues Gabrielle Giffords for $25 million. Jared Lee Loughner has filed a lawsuit against Gabrielle Giffords in the Federal Bureau of Prisons, alleging that Giffords caused him emotional distress and should pay him $25 million, according to documents filed in federal court in Phoenix. Loughner is serving a life sentence in prison for shooting and killing 6 people in Tucson, January 2011. Former Congresswoman Giffords suffered a gunshot wound to the head and is among 13 people wounded. In a 2-page lawsuit filed March 18th in U.S. District Court in Phoenix, Loughner said he is innocent and asked for his immediate release from prison. He also makes bizarre claims about Giffords. No lawyer is listed in the document. The document is riddled with spelling and grammatical errors. The envelope the lawsuit was mailed in was postmarked in Philadelphia. Loughner is serving his time in a Minnesota federal prison facility. Officials with the prison could not be reached Wednesday evening to confirm the envelope was mailed from their facility. The envelope has no markings to indicate it came from a federal prison. Loughner said his head is full of chips and this evil empire government is controlling me. He said he is a victim of Project MK Ultra and that Giffords is part of the Illuminati. Loughner alleges that Gifford was never shot. Instead, she studied Ronald Reagan's movies and is pretending to be a gunshot victim. The lawsuit also claims Gifford's husband, astronaut Mark Kelly, is planting equipment in the sky to spy on Americans for the NSA. Loughner claims Giffords played a role in the recent standoff at a wildlife refuge in Oregon, sprayed chemtrails into the sky that are making him delusional, and financed the December shooting in the San Bernardino, California. Loughner said he has evidence of Giffords dancing at Bohemian Grove with the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds. He also said he's not getting proper food in prison. His medications were taken away, and he is waterboarded daily by federal agents. A stamp on the lawsuit says the document was filed incorrectly and subject to rejection by the court. Very interesting, huh? Very interesting that he would say those things, especially in light of the fact that there were as many others that alleged those things along the way. So we'll see how that thing pans out. But if he improperly filed the paperwork, it's not going to go anywhere. And that might be the end of it. But interesting story nonetheless. Here we have a story about King Tut. King Tut. It says recent scans, Tomb Raider King Tut's burial chamber shows hidden rooms. Radar scans of King Tutankhamun's burial chamber have revealed 2 hidden rooms, a tantalizing discovery that could resolve the mystery as old as the pyramids. What was the fate of Egypt's beautiful Queen Nefertari? At a packed Cairo news conference Thursday to announce the find in King Tut's tomb in Luxor, Antiquities Minister Maroundo el-Damati declined to comment on whether any royal treasure or more mummies might be inside the rooms, but he said the unexplored chambers could hold some kind of organic or metal objects. Most experts say that while the scans might reveal another tomb behind false walls, it's unlikely to be crammed with solid gold and a royal mummy like Nefertari, whose 3,300-year-old bust on display in Berlin is one of the most famous symbols of ancient Egypt and classical beauty. Quite often people have done these sorts of scans, and when actually investigated, things have turned out to be nothing like predicted, said Aidan Dodson, an archaeologist at the University of Bristol in England. If they are chambers, most likely they'd be filled with more funeral objects of Tutankhamun, possibly including some gilded statuettes of gods, or perhaps even the mummy of a young child who predeceased Tut. Still, the discovery has ignited massive interest, and el-Damati cast the discovery as potentially huge. He said the radar scans of the chamber taken last year and analyzed in Japan will be repeated at the end of the month. It means a rediscovery of Tutankhamun, For Egypt, it is a very big discovery. It could also be the discovery of the century. El-Damati said it is very important for Egyptian history and for all of the world. The discovery could also renew excitement in Egypt's antiquities and help reinvigorate its flapping tourism industry, which has been hit hard in recent years by political violence and insurgency in the northern Sinai Peninsula and persistent attacks since the military's 2013 overthrow of an elected but divisive Islamist president. The contents of the newly found rooms could shine a light on one of ancient Egypt's most turbulent times, and one of prominent researchers theorized that the remains of Nefertiti could be inside. British Egyptologist Nicholas Reeves speculates that Tutankhamun, who died at 19, may have been rushed into an outer chamber of what was originally Nefertiti's tomb. The queen was one of the wives of Tutankhamun's father, the pharaoh Akhenaten. El-Damati said it was too early to tell what the metal and organic material could be, saying that he thinks that the chambers could possibly contain a member of Tutankhamun's family, possibly a woman. Luxor in southern Egypt served as the pharaohic capital and is the home to sprawling temples and several highly decorated ancient tombs in the Valley of the Kings. The discovery in 1922 of King Tut's nearly intact tomb by Howard Carter yielded unprecedented treasures, including the boy king sarcophagus and an iconic golden burial mask. Reeves researched his theory after a high-resolution image discovered what he said were straight lines in Tut's tomb. These lines, previously hidden by the color and texture of the stones, indicate the presence of a sealed chamber. The images were broadcast live on national television in September. At the Cairo News Conference, El-Damati showed the results of the radar scans that revealed anomalies in the walls of the tomb, indicating a possible hidden door and rooms behind false walls that were covered up and painted over with hieroglyphics. Tut's tomb, the most intact one ever discovered in Egypt, was packed with well-preserved artifacts, and it was discovered that the facts that it was relatively small for the Valley of Kings is boosting theories that there is more to be discovered. Okay, so very interesting. There's more to the article. I'm going to leave that for you to check out. Okay, King Tut's tomb. So, what will they find in King Tut's tomb? Who knows? Who knows? Maybe Geraldo will go out there again, just like he did with Al Capone's tomb, and he can stand out there, and at the end of all of it, he could say, "Oh, nothing here. You just wasted all of your time telling you there was something in this tomb, and there was nothing there." This case I think, is a little different, though, because there has been talk about this tomb for years and what might be in it, and the pyramids and their secrets and so on and so forth. Okay? Okay. Continuing on, what I'd like to do today is I wanted to jump on over and talk about the resurrection. Since it is Easter week, I thought I'd get into this a little bit here. And this is going over something that I've already read before. It's from the Nag Hammadi Library, but it's worth revisiting again. This is called the Treatise on the Resurrection, translated by Willis Barnstone. My son Reginos, some people want to become learned. That is their purpose when they begin to solve unsolved problems. If they succeed, they are proud, but I do not think that they have stood in the word of truth. Rather, they seek their own rest, which we have received from our Savior and our Lord, the Christ. We received rest when we came to know the truth and rested on it. Since your pleasant question concerns what is the truth about the resurrection, I'm writing you today to tell you. Many do not believe it, but a few find it, so let's see. How did the Lord proclaim things while he was in the flesh, and after he had revealed himself to be the Son of God? He lived in this world that you live in, speaking about the law of nature, which I call death. And more, Reginos, the Son of God, became a human son. He embraced both qualities, possessing humanity and divinity, so he could, by being the Son of God, conquer death, and by being the human son, restore the pleroma. At the beginning he was above the seat of truth, which was before the cosmos came into being, and in the cosmic structure many dominions and divinities have come into being. Now I know that I am presenting the problem in difficult words, but there is nothing in the word of truth that is difficult. After the solution appeared, to ensure that nothing be hidden and everything be openly revealed, there are two essentials: the destruction of evil and the revelation of the elect. The solution entails the emanation of the truth and spirit and of grace bestowed by truth. The Savior swallowed death. You must know this. He laid aside the perishable world and made himself into an imperishable aeon, raised himself up and swallowed the visible with the invisible. Thereby he gave us immortality. Then, as the messenger Paul said of him, we suffered with him, we rose with him, and we entered heaven with him. Now, since we are seen in this world, we wear it like a garment. From the Savior we radiate beams, and we are held in his arms until our own sunset, our death in this life. We are drawn to heaven by him like beams by the sun, and nothing holds us down. This is the resurrection of the spirit, which swallows up the soul and the flesh. If you cannot believe, you cannot be persuaded. My son, these matters belong to the domain of faith, and not to persuasive argument in asserting that the dead will rise. Among the philosophers in the world there may be one who believes, certainly that philosopher will rise. And let that philosopher here on earth not believe that he is returning to the self by himself, and because of faith we have known the human Son, and we believe that he rose from the dead. We say of him, he is the destroyer of death. The goal as well as its believers is great, and the thinking mind of believers will not disappear, nor will the mind of those who know. We are chosen for salvation and redemption, since from the beginning we were predestined not to fall into the folly of the ignorant. We shall enter into the wisdom of those who have known the truth. Those who have awakened to the truth cannot abandon it. The system of the pleroma is strong. A small part of it is what broke loose to make up the world. What encompasses everything, the realm of all, did not come into being. It was. So never doubt the resurrection, my son Origenos. If you did not exist in flesh, you took on flesh when you entered the world. Why is it then that you will not take your flesh with you when you rise into the aeon? What is better than flesh is what animates what came into being because of you. Is it not yours? Doesn't it exist with you? But while you are in this world, what are you missing? What is precisely what you have attempted to learn? After the birth of the body comes old age, and you exist in corruption. But what you lack is a gain. You will not give up the better part when you leave. The inferior part suffers, but it finds grace. Nothing redeems us from this world, but we are members of the realm of all and are saved. We have received salvation from start to finish. Let us think in this way. Let us comprehend in this way. Some asked whether one will be saved immediately if the body is left behind. Let no one doubt, the visible parts of the body that are dead will not be saved. Only the living parts that exist inside will rise. What is the resurrection? It is the revelation of those who have risen. If you remember reading in the Gospel of Elijah that appeared with Moses, do not suppose that the resurrection is an illusion. It is no illusion, it is truth. It is more proper to say that the world is illusion rather than the resurrection. That is because of our Lord and Savior Jesus the Christ. What am I telling you now? The living will die. How do they live in illusion? The rich become poor and kings are overthrown. All changes. The world is an illusion. Why do I seem to shout? The resurrection has nothing of this character. It is truth standing firm. It is revelation of what is and the transformation of things and the transition into freshness. Incorruptibility floods over corruption. Light rivers down upon the darkness, swallowing obscurity. The pleroma fills the hollow. These are the symbols and images of resurrection. They establish its goodness. O Reginos, do not lose yourself in details, nor live obeying the flesh for the sake of harmony. Flee from being scattered and being in bondage, and then you already have resurrection. If you know what in yourself will die, though you have lived many years, why not look at yourself and see yourself risen now? You have the resurrection, yet you go on as if you are to die, when it is only the part destined to die that is moribund. Why do I put up with your poor training? Everyone finds a way, and there are many ways to be released from this element and not to roam aimlessly in error, all with the end of recovery, what one was at the beginning. These words I have received from the generosity of my Lord Jesus the Christ. I have taught you and your brothers and sisters who are my children about them, and have omitted nothing that may strengthen you. If there is anything among these written words that is obscure, ask, and I will explain. Do not be worried about consulting anyone in your circle who can help. Many await what I have written to you. I say peace and grace be among them. I greet you and whoever loves you with the love of family. All right. So there you go. The Treatise on the Resurrection. I thought I would bring this up again, as I said, because it is this time of the year when we acknowledge this time of the resurrection, what it's all about. And that is the crux of really the whole story of Yeshua, that he rose from the dead. Now, we have the stories that talk about the body rising from the dead. And then we have other stories like these which don't get into the body rising, but into the spirit rising, the separating of that which is divine from that which was created by other sources other than the Mother, Father, God. So what we have here is the being. Remember, Yaldabaoth, Yahweh created the skin suit in order to trap God. Yeshua came down into the skin suit and showed that nobody could trap God within this, and that at the end of all, that simply the spirit in would simply leave at its own discretion. And that was pretty much the way that it went. And through that lesson, we've all been shown how to get out, how to escape this trap that we're in. Because as long as we're in these physical bodies, we're having to deal with all of the issues of the physical world, the battles of the physical world, the challenges, the duality of the physical world, the lies, the truths, all of the strangeness that goes on. But we're taught and we learn over and over that there's something beyond all of this. And through all these Nag Hammadi texts, we understand what it is now. It's the immortal realms. The immortal realms, and we're just in one particular realm that is been cut off from the others simply because of ignorance. Because one, Sophia didn't want to have the Father, Mother, God understand what she brought into reality, which is Yaldabaoth, and then she put the veil between the worlds. So when we go through the life and we're kind of blinded by what's happening, it's all with reason, because throughout time there's been things hidden, and it's up to us to seek and to find. And isn't that a message over and over that Yeshua told us? Seek and to find, to knock, and it'll be answered, to ask, over and over. It was about these issues of looking for something, and that is really what's important. You see, if someone just gives us something, that's one thing. But when we are seeking for something, it's because it's something that we desire. And it often has more meaning to us because we do desire it, and therefore we seek it. And if we are truly seeking, we shall find. And why is all of this possible? How is all of this possible? Is it some sort of magic? No, it's just the way things work. Remember the Kybalion 7 principles. We live in a mental universe, giant mind. Every aspect of this mind, from the largest to the smallest part, corresponds or communicates with itself. Every aspect of this mind vibrates. In this vibration, energy moves from one pole to the next. So it moves in according to the principle of polarity. These poles, as energy moves back and forth, create a rhythm. The rhythm that we find, the rhythm of life, affects and causes all that happen. And the masculine and feminine principle reminds us that it is the male and the female that create. And that in order to create, we need to use the principle of gender. So all of these are very important issues and very important things that we learn through the process of the resurrection, through the process of seeking. You could see that in the world we're in, that there would be a lot of confusion. If these are the 7 principles that move us forward, if these are 7 principles that show how things work, well, it'd be very easy. If you have a society where you're screwing them up on what is real gender and what isn't, you've affected this last principle here, the principle of gender. Because now people are no longer thinking that male and female are it. Now you have all these other combinations of gender that humankind has decided to throw into the mix. God hasn't decided to throw them into the mix. Humankind has. Okay, so we can affect things by changing this. We've affected things by not teaching that the universe is a giant mind. And so all of these aspects of how it corresponds and the cause and effect are kind of thrown out the window because we're really not taught on a grand scale that we need to pay attention to things we do because of the results that come from it. So we just sometimes go through life haphazardly creating and doing things, not understanding that we do have some say in what goes on here. So, as with anything in the realm of spirituality, we either have the truth that is discovered or the truth that is hidden and needs to be discovered. The Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve were kept from having the wisdom, and while they were kept from having the wisdom, they remained in a state of ignorance. They remained in that state of ignorance even though the Creator, Yahweh, knew that they could be fullness of who they are if they simply embraced the fullness of everything. But Yaldabaoth, Yahweh, was ignorant himself and didn't want anybody to have any more understanding of things than he already did himself. So lies occurred. And over and over throughout life, whenever wisdom gets suppressed or information gets suppressed, it's in an effort to hide something, to keep people dumbed down. That is why we have to make the effort to seek and to find, to go after the things we want, and understand that the universe does provide simply by us deciding that we are going to put in a full effort of such things. Okay? So with this resurrection, with this Easter, and all that is going on with this, I think it's very important that we take some time just to consider the divinity that flows through us, because that's what the whole point of Jesus' mission was, to show us the divinity, to help us to understand this divinity. And after hearing all of the stories that Yeshua went through, isn't it good to finally get to the end of the story where we have the lesson, the big payoff? That's one of the things about the Nag Hammadi library that I like, that it gives you the payoff. Because you read the Old Testament, it really doesn't get into much of a talk about what happened after the resurrection, but that's the important part. You know, we've followed the whole story. We've been with Yeshua through the good times, through the bad times. We've walked with him along the journey of being beaten and tortured and abused. Well, let's not stop there when we get to the end and he's crucified. Let's find out what was learned. That's what the Nag Hammadi is showing us. It's Yeshua coming back after he was crucified and talking about the experience, talking about what is out there for all of us. Okay? So just something to consider, take a deep perspective of that over this weekend as we're going through this Easter season to understand more. And tomorrow I'm going to get into some information specifically talking about Easter so we can separate our understandings of what Easter is and how it is and isn't related to the resurrection, because there's some ways in which there's no connection at all. There really isn't a connection between Jesus and the Easter Bunny. That's something that all got wrapped in together. What Jesus was about was different. The idea of the resurrection was different than some of these other concepts. It was very important for us to know because, as we've learned, we're in a terrarium. We're here in a system that is a counterfeit version of other realms. And we want to be able to get to these other realms, get back to these other realms. But if we don't understand that they exist, well, that's problem number one. And if we're not shown and given an opportunity to get back there because we're lied to about where we're at, there's problem number two. So we have a lot of challenges. And as I've said, and as I do believe now, that the shape of the earth is not as we've been told by NASA, not as we've been told by the Masonic traditions that have tried to convince us of this, but I believe that the earth is shaped more according to the way the Bible describes it, or the Quran, or the Buddhist teachings, or the teachings of Hindu teachings, and many of the ancient world teachings, which is the world, the earth is a flat plane, not a planet, but a plane, and that it has a dome over it, the dome being the firmament, and that this dome, this land that has a firmament over it, is a counterfeit version of the immortal realms, which are other realms that have firmaments over them, domes over them. So it sounds like domed cities, and that we have all of these dome cities where these immortals lived, and then we have this dome city here, which was created by one of the fallen immortals. And this is who we are and where we are, and what we're trying to do is to evolve. But our challenge is that the being that created us, we're told that this is the be all end all God, when in actuality that's not the case. And the only way we find out is through the teachings that come to us from hidden places like the Nag Hammadi. So that's it. That's my rambling on that subject for the moment. Here is our channeled message for today. Comes to us from Quan Yin. All about perspectives of others.
The Perspectives of Others, Quan Yin, February 24, 2016, channeled by Daniel Scranton. It is I, Quan Yin. Multiple perspectives bring more clarity to a situation. The assumption may be that the more perspectives there are, the more opportunities then for confusion. But there is a very good reason why you are all not sharing the same perspective, and that reason is because variety and diversity bring you more than singularity or conformity ever could. You often see the value in getting a fresh pair of eyes on something, but when you and someone else are seeing the same thing from two very different perspectives, you often do not see that as a strength. You often see it as a reason to have an argument, a dispute, and possibly even a lawsuit. But what if you could see the other's perspective as being just as valid as yours? What if you could let go of the idea that there is one singular truth? Letting go of a tight grip, resistance, and self-righteousness will always serve you. Being tied to your perspective will give you a limited view of the world and limited access to the infinite possibilities. Expanding your consciousness means expanding your awareness, so I suggest that you welcome other perspectives and that you see them as valuable. Seeing another's perspective as valuable is also valuing the person, and the more you value others, the more you value yourself. I am not advocating that you surrender your perspective in favor of someone else's. I am saying that when you honor the perspectives of others, you are honored. And everyone's perspective can add to the experience of something, making it fuller and richer, giving it deeper meaning. Allow others to hold their perspectives and see how much more joy can be had by simply giving another permission to be who they are and to see things how they see them. I am Quan Yin, and I hold you in my heart.
All right, good message about perspective. Definitely a good message. You know, one of the lessons and one of the ideas that comes up often is taking a new perspective on things, because we can get caught up real easily in a particular perspective, and then our ego gets involved and we believe that our perspective is the only way, and then something comes along and shows us that we are incorrect in that analysis. So it's important that we look at other perspectives. It's important because think about it. We are all here for a purpose. Okay? Whatever it is that you do in the world, I assure you, you would not be necessary to be there to do that unless God had a purpose for you to be there. Because God, who can do anything, could do exactly what it is that you are here to do without you, without me, without any of us. But we're here. So if God could do the job that we're doing, but instead we were put here to do that job, then there's a purpose. There's a reason why God wanted us to be here to do these jobs, to do what it is we're doing. And so within that idea, we now have a responsibility to understand what is the purpose. And that's what we're trying to find out through life. First thing is that helps is knowing that there is a purpose, because we wouldn't be here otherwise. We didn't just get dropped off here for some random vacation. But even if that was the case, it's still a purpose. The purpose would be to vacation. Now, we're not here for that. I don't believe that. At least I know I'm not. And I just know that, as God is here and God is expressing itself through so many, that means there's that many perspectives of and from the divine that we could take a look at to understand. And that's the whole point of the new perspectives. Seeing from other ways so that we can begin to understand and find ways to communicate, correspond, be in better alliance with each other. And we find out that once we look at different perspectives, that even though there's a difference in perspective, there's a lot more similar things than there are not. Because oftentimes perspectives are simply all of us looking at the same thing, but seeing it from a slightly different angle. So we're seeing something a little bit different than what somebody else is. But they and we are still seeing the same thing. And when we can put our ideas together and our descriptions of what we saw, we help ourselves to understand a bigger idea of the image, because then it's realized that my version is not the only version, your version is not the only version, that if we put them together, we understand that there's a bigger version out there than we could even imagine, and it only continues to grow and get larger as more and more individuals on Earth look at this and begin to look at the different perspectives. So I think that's very important, looking at other perspectives to help understand what others are going through. And in the process, we have compassion. And with that compassion, we allow ourselves the opportunity to evolve, because we've learned to care about someone other than ourselves. All right, that brings us to our meditation. So close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Exhale. Take another deep breath. Exhale again. And another breath. And exhale. Now imagine yourself walking down the street. And as you're walking down the street, you see all kind of people. Young people, old people, men, women. See people from different races. Blacks, whites, reds, yellows. And as you see all of these different people and beings moving around the streets and moving through life, you look at them and you realize that they all have a particular perspective of the world. And you can tell by the way in which people move and operate that the perspective is different from the one that you have. So imagine just taking some time and looking at one person at a time and just putting yourself in their shoes to understand their perspective for a few moments. And as we do, we begin to understand a bit more about who we are by looking to understand who they are. And one by one, as we look at different people and the perspectives in which they are looking at the world, like a puzzle, we're able to put all these perspectives together to form a much larger picture. A much larger picture of what is really going on behind the scenes. A much larger picture of the Creator and the creative spirit that brings all of this into existence. So let us go through the world today just looking at the perspectives all around us and seeing how we might consider and embrace some of these other perspectives, knowing that they help us to expand who we are to be who we are meant to be. So let the subconscious mind continue on the journey, looking at the perspectives of others in the world. And let's bring the conscious mind back to the present moment on the count of 3. 3 coming back to the present moment filled with confidence. 2 coming back to the present moment filled with faith. 1 coming back to the present moment happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. Take another deep breath. Exhale, and open your eyes. All right, my friends, that's it for today. Thank you so much for being here. Lots of things to consider. This is the time of the year when we get to understand the concepts of life and death and explore these and see that there's something much greater for us. So let us consider the Nag Hammadi text and the resurrection. Let us consider what Yeshua went through and see if we can understand the bigger meaning of all of this. Because there is a bigger purpose. The bigger purpose is understanding our connection to divinity. And so if we understand that, sure makes life much easier, because, well, we find ourselves back at home, connected to the source that we have always been connected to, just separated from because we became disillusioned. Alright? Alright, I'm going to quit rambling today. I'm going to move on, and I'll be back tomorrow. You have an awesome day, and keep loving each other. I love you, and I'll be back. Peace. I'm out of here.